Hi everybody, welcome to episode 4 of the Long Dog Yarn Cast. I'm Brandy, I'm the designer behind Brandy Velton Designs and the indie dyer behind Long Dog Yarn. This podcast is basically where I ramble on a lot about my love for yarn and knitting and my life as an indie dyer and designer. So I hope you enjoy it. If you are a new viewer, welcome. If you're a returning viewer, I love you guys. Thanks for coming back again. You can find me online a couple different places to connect. I'm on Instagram at LongDogYarn and also at Brandy_V. And you can also find me on Ravelry in my Ravelry group, and my username is Broken Hallelujah. It's been hot here. I'm pretty sure this podcast might end up being an incoherent, rambling mess. I haven't slept that well lately. We don't have great AC in our apartment. I'm surprised that I look like a functioning human being right now. It's a little bit of makeup and a lot of bit of coffee. But who knows? This episode could be really fun. Or I could fall asleep halfway in the middle. So I guess we'll find out. So I have an exciting giveaway winner to announce this week. Last episode I put out a call to you guys to send me some excellent book recommendations and let me know what your favorite books are. And I was going to draw a winner from all those great recommendations to win a skein of Primrose Yarn Company Luscious Sock in the Hermione colorway. And I drew the winner, and the winner is number 41, Michelle. So Michelle, send me your shipping information on Ravelry, just a quick note, and I will get you this beautiful skein of yarn out in the mail to you. And congrats again, and thank you for that great recommendation. And thank you to everybody who gave me some book recommendations. That was a lot of fun. So hopefully I can think of something fun like that again in a time when my brain is not clouded by sleep and heat. This week in the shop, there's not a whole lot of news to share. I don't have a shop update coming up soon because I've been busy working on some wholesale orders and getting ready for a trunk show that I have coming up. But it is July, and that means that there is a new monthly exclusive colorway in the shop, and I can share that with you guys if you haven't seen it already. So here is the new July colorway that's available this month in the shop, and it is a beautiful aqua blue. It was inspired by basically the color of the water and coral reefs. Something tropical and summery and fun. And so yeah, it's really nice, pretty summery color. You can get you can grab a skein on any of my fingering weight bases, and I also have sock sets available with two options. You can either get Lagoon, which is this deep blue here, or highlighter yellow to go with your July skein of yarn this month. So those are available in the shop, and they'll be around all month long for you to grab. And that's basically really the only news that I have. But as I said before, I will be doing a trunk show coming up on Saturday. So if you are in the Los Angeles or Southern California area, you can find me and a whole pile of yarn at Gather, which is in downtown Los Angeles. It's a really cool yarn shop if you haven't been there before. It's pretty tiny, but that makes it intimate and awesome. And it is located just above the Last Bookstore, which is this awesome used bookstore in downtown LA that's in what used to be a bank building, and they they use all the space, so you get to go into the bank vaults where they put books, and it's crazy. So it's a really fun experience. You could go check out some books and yarn. What is better than that? Oh my gosh. So I will be there on Saturday, July 15th at Gather in downtown Los Angeles. I'll be there starting at 11. Not sure when I'm leaving yet, but it should be a lot of fun. I'll be there with yarn, chatting, knitting, maybe drinking. Who knows? It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. So if you are in the area, come by and say hi. I'd love to see you. This week for Long Dog Yarn in the Wild, I found some fun patterns to share with you guys. Of course, one has to be a pair of socks. Why not? So the first project that I've found on Ravelry is some Times Square socks. These are Kat Muir's Summertime Square socks, and the pattern is by Knitting Expat Designs. Kat Muir used a Long Dog Yarn sock set in the April exclusive colorway and paired that with a Hawaiian gold mini skein for the toes, heels, and cuffs. And it looks great. I love this combination together. There's just nothing that is better than a beautiful teal with a golden pop of yellow. And this has to be one of my favorite monthly colorways that I've done this year. Is definitely one that I hope to add to the shop once the year is over, and hope it'll become a favorite there. But Kat Muir did a great job knitting these up. I think even though the yarn is got some high contrast areas in it, it doesn't overpower the pattern she chose. It looks great. Just another sock pattern that I'm adding to my never-ending queue of sock patterns to knit. You're going to read my obituary and it's going to say that I died in an avalanche of all the socks that I knit throughout my life. But, I mean, what kind of death would it be if I didn't die by yarn? So, thank you for sharing these. The next pattern, of course, is a fade, because you can't escape it, and there's so many beautiful ones that I can't help but feature them, even though it's like every week. You love it. You know you love it. So here's a fade. This one is W129 SMC's Fade Shawl. This is her second Find Your Fade Shawl. The pattern is on Ravelry by Andrea Mowry. And W129 SMC used Long Dog Yarn Bounce in Dark Dimension, as well as my twist based in Parisian Mist and the February exclusive colorway. And then she rounded that out with some Hue Loco Bokeh sock for a beautiful, perfectly pink, wonderfully stunning fade shawl. Just really beautiful. I love that theme of pink that she kept going throughout the entire thing. Who doesn't need a giant squishy pink scarf, wrap, shawl, whatever? Everybody needs one, and hers is beautiful. So thank you for showing that, sharing it. The third project I found this week is Knock Your Socks Off Amazing. And it isn't a fade, and it isn't socks. It is Brooke Ellen's Summer Brights top, and this thing is stunning. The pattern is Cobain, and it is by Cassandra Rizzardi, and Brooke Ellen used Long Dog Yarn Everyday DK in the Popsicle Stand and Jawbreaker colorways, and then finished off her beautiful top with Squish Fiber Arts Ultra DK. Look at how happy and bright and amazing this top is. I want one of these right now. It's so beautiful. And I just love the pairing of Popsicle Stand and Jawbreaker, because they are, to me, like perfectly inverted colorways to each other. You got the bright yellow with the pops of pink, and green and popsicle stand, and then you have the bright pink with the pops of yellow in Jawbreaker. I am kind of obsessed with these colorways that are like the polar opposites of each other because they give you such high contrast, but you know they're going to work beautifully together. I might have to come up with some fun color pairings that pull more of these colorways from the shop, because I think they're so much fun to play with and beautiful to look at, and I love it in this top. So Brooke Ellen, thank you for this beautiful top and for sharing it. I first saw it on Instagram, and then I had to hunt it down on Ravelry so that I could make sure to include it in this podcast episode. So thank you for sharing that. And just a little note, I will be upping the stock that I carry in my Everyday DK base next month to gear up for fall knitting. And I'm also hoping to add another DK base to the shop in a merino wool. So if you are looking for some spectacular fun DK weight speckles for hats and that, and awesome sweaters for your fall knitting, I'm gonna have you covered for that. I'm really excited to get that stock amped up in the shop for some awesome fall and winter projects. So be sure to check for that. Lastly this week, I have one final project to share. This is more of an update on a project I previously shared in another episode, and this is Yellow X Dart's So Faded Sweater. Another fade, but she's finished it now, so I wanted to pop in a picture of the finished sweater because it looks so great. And this one was knit in Long Dog Yarn Bounce in Fairy Wings, and this is starting at the top of the sweater and going down, so you can keep track of all of these different colorways. It's Fairy Wings, Hydrangea, Hello Lover, Jellyfish, and then she finally finished it off in Freshwater Pearl. So she's got a beautiful finished sweater now. I love this fade that she did from the blues through the purples and the grays. Just a really, really great selection of colors that she chose from the shop. So thank you, Yellow X Dart, for uploading that picture of your finished sweater. It's beautiful. I hope you are enjoying it. I've got some fun news to share with you guys, and this is a couple of new designs that popped up on Ravelry since the last podcast, and they aren't my designs, but they feature Long Dog yarn in the design. So of course I have to share them and brag about it because it is so super exciting that somebody bought my yarn and designed a pattern around it. It's like the ultimate compliment to have your yarn be an inspiration to another designer. So the first one that I want to show you guys is a beautiful shawl that was knit by Alexandra Alfonso, and this design, this pattern is called Shifting Light. And it uses Long Dog yarn single, and Alexandra did such a great job. She reached out to me on Instagram about this design and working together, and it came out even better than I expected. It is a completely different take on how to work and fade two colors together. You could probably use more than two colors and really be original and have fun with this pattern. But it calls for two colors that you then use a very beautiful linen stitch design to weave them together and play around with the combination of these two colors in a really fun way. It's an asymmetrical triangle shawl, so this is another fun one in the fact that you can basically make it as big as you want to. It's very customizable in its length along with the colors that you use, and that's always fun to add your own spin onto a pattern, and you don't have to worry about running out of yarn, which is another great thing. So check out this shifting light pattern by Alexandra. It looks great. I already have plans to cast on one of my own. I've picked out a skein of Day Glow and a skein of Dark Dimension, and that's what I'm going to make mine in. I told you I was kind of a little bit obsessed with these opposite colorways. So Day Glow is like a white base with neon speckles and black speckles, and Dark Dimension is a black base with neon speckles. So I'm really excited to see these two colorways combined together and produce this shawl. So that is something that I hope to have on the needles very soon. So thank you, Alexandra, again for working with me. It was really fun working with you. You were so easy to work with. It was like nothing on my part. It's like send out some yarn, and in the end I get a beautiful pattern that features my yarn and a fun project to knit. It was a win-win situation. So check out the shifting light pattern on Ravelry. I have a second new pattern that features long dog yarn to share with you guys as well. And this is the Fadient Scarf by Zandy Peters. It's part of her whole Fadient collection, which is amazing. She used long dog yarn sock in the, I didn't write it down because I'm a dum-dum, but I'm pretty sure it's mermaid hair, poolside, and one other one. Yikes. I'm tired. But the colors don't matter. What matters is how beautiful the scarf is. And this whole Fadient collection is so fun. She's got a wrap, an asymmetrical wrap, a hat, the scarf, a triangular shawl. Is a whole collection of beautiful accessories that she uses her Fadient technique, which is a combination of a fade and gradient, to merge together colors that you wouldn't even think could go together. But the way that she works her knitting magic, they look beautiful, and I'm like impressed at everything. She uses such beautiful high contrast colors, and they just perfectly blend into each other like a work of art. It was really fantastic. So definitely check out this Fadient collection. Check out the Fadient scarf. If you are looking for some fun knitting to use crazy colors that you love but can't figure out what to use them in, this is definitely a project that you can play around and have a lot of fun with the color combinations. And on top of that, she has a Fadient knit along going on right now, so you can jump into that and make some new friends, get some color inspirations, and just have a lot of fun there. So this is the Fadient Scarf by Zandy Peters, and it's part of the Fadient collection. Check it out on Ravelry. This week on Ask an Indie Dyer and Designer, I've got a couple fun questions that I pulled off of the Ravelry thread. The first one is by Michelle, and she asked me how I organize my stash. The answer is I don't. Ugh, my stash is a little bit of a mess. It's really not organized to any proper level of organization, except a giant, I store all my yarn in little plastic bins. And so basically I haven't really gone through it since we moved from Toronto, and when you're moving you're just like shove it all in. So it was basically one giant game of yarn Tetris, and whatever fit into the bins is what went into the bins. So not very much organization. I need to go in there. I need to have like a major cull of my stash and get rid of the yarns that I know I'm not going to use. Those yarns that you hang on to for who knows whatever reasons it needs to happen. But you know, I try kind of to have it organized by, like, my sock yarns are mostly together, and then I have like a whole bin of yarns of Knit Picks palette that I use for color work designs, Fair Isle knitting, so I have like a whole container of those mostly together. And I have mostly all my like sweater quantities worth of yarn all kept together, but it's really kind of just chaos, and when I'm looking for something, it's like a disaster zone of me rifling through all these buckets, but that's okay. I do have my little collection back here of my indie dyer yarn collection that I keep to just be pretty and make me happy and smile every day. So there's that back there. Those are my indie dyer yarns. Every time I get a new one, I smush it into that container because it's getting a little bit full these days. So yeah, not very organized, but that's okay. It gets the job done for now. So I don't know if you were hoping for some organization inspiration, I am not your gal. So thank you, Michelle, for asking that question and making me reveal embarrassingly that I'm a bit of a yarn mess. The second question I have is from Lioness Ramping, and she asked what I use to film my podcasts. And the first episode that I did, I just used my computer, which is a MacBook Pro, and it actually does a pretty decent job. Has a really good microphone, I've found, and I just wanted a little bit more control over the whole focus thing so that I could have the background be blurry and it focuses with me a bit more. So after the first episode, I did a little bit of playing around. I also chatted with Taylor from the Wool Needles Hands podcast on some tips for podcasting, because her podcast is beautiful and she does a great job. So now what I use mostly is my Nikon camera. It's my DSLR camera that I use for all my product photography and that sort of thing. It's a Nikon D5100, and I use it in movie mode. And then I also bought a special microphone for it because I found after filming an episode, a whole episode on it, that the microphone attached to the camera, the internal microphone of the camera, would pick up the lens zooming noise, and it was so annoying to me. So I got a Rode microphone attachment that sits on the top of the camera, and since then it is much better and you don't really hear the lens zooming in and out. So that's what I use most of the time for filming. A couple tips if you are looking to get into this sort of craziness for yourself. My camera is not perfect for filming podcasts or filming anything really that is really long in duration, because some genius at Nikon decided it was a good idea to make the movies only 20 minutes in length, and then the camera would automatically stop filming. That's a little bit annoying, so I always have to kind of look up and make sure how much time I have left so that I'm not just blathering on while the camera is not filming anything, which has happened more than once and is really annoying because then I have to figure out where it stopped recording. So keep that in mind if you're using a similar model as mine, that it's a little bit annoying in that way. And also the thing with the lens zoom, if you use that, you'll definitely want an external microphone so that you don't have to hear the lens zoom go in and out all the time, because that is also super annoying if you are a type A personality perfectionist like I am. So that's what I use most of the time. I don't have any special lighting. I just set up so that I am being lit naturally by the window in my studio. Luckily enough, I have a nice it's a north-facing window, so it gets some pretty decent indirect light for most of the day that works for this sort of thing. So I don't really have any tips on special lighting, unfortunately. But hopefully if you are interested in filming your own podcast, that'll give you a place to start. And like I said, if you have like a MacBook or a Mac computer, they are decent places to start as well, to try out podcasting or just filming in general. And you can use the QuickTime app on there to film, and then I use just the iMovie app for editing all of my videos. It has a little bit of a learning curve, and it's not quite as customizable on some things as I would like it to be, but it gets the job done. So hopefully those are some good tips to get you started if anybody out there is looking to jump into the crazy world of talking to yourself in a camera and hoping somebody on the internet will watch it. So thank you for asking that great question. So this episode, sadly, I have 0 projects to share with you that are complete, because I kind of went a little bit nuts, and I can't blame the heat for it because this happened way before the heat wave arrived. But I kind of get in these like weird funks. It happens for both dyeing and designing, and just this mood takes over my brain. And so I had a designing funk the other day, maybe like a week and a half ago. For some reason, I just had a lot of inspiration for a lot of different projects just arriving all at one time. I was writing down ideas all over the place whenever they arrived, and I would just scribble it out or draw a quick thing, and I had so many, which is so annoying because you go through these spurts where you can't think of anything that you want to design, and then all of a sudden it's like you want to design everything. I was having the I want to design everything spurt, and sometimes I will write down these ideas and then it kind of goes nowhere. Sometimes I will write down the idea and I'm so inspired by it that I want to cast it on right away, and I was having a lot of that. I was like, I want to cast on this and this and this, and it was crazy. And I was casting on all these things that were popping into my mind, and then it was like so many of them weren't really working out the way I imagined. They just weren't doing things I wanted them to do. I was getting really frustrated. I was ripping out so many things and trying it a different way, and then ripping it out again, and then asking Andy, what do you think of these colors? What do you think of this? Can you tell about this effect? And I was driving him crazy because he really does not care that much, but he tolerates me because I don't have anybody else in the immediate area to be like, what do you think about this? And sometimes you just need that like second vindication to tell yourself, yeah, this sucks, or it's not working the way you want it to. Usually it's always, you know, follow your gut. If I know inside that this isn't working out the way I want it to, I should just rip it out and either rework it or let it go for another time. But sometimes I just need somebody else to tell me, yeah, it's not great. Even though most of the time I think Andy just knows that I want him to say that, so he says it because he's a good husband. So that's what was happening. I was like going through so many things of casting on and then it not working out exactly how I planned it, and ripping it out and trying to tweak it, and I was going nuts and getting really frustrated with the fact that I was having so many ideas and so few of them were really doing what I wanted them to do, or looking the way I wanted them to look. I was just like in a creative fluster. It was madness. So that's all that I'd been knitting on, was like these ideas. Finally, it kind of chilled out. I kind of got into a little bit of a calmer Zen state, and things were starting to work out a little bit more the way I imagined. So really, that whole rambling nonsense of my crazy creative process is to tell you that I finally ended up with about 3 projects on my needles that are new ideas that I have, and I haven't really worked on anything else. So it's a bunch of little baby projects with not much else going on. But sometimes you just gotta let the creative flow take over your life. So this week I have some of these baby projects to share, and unfortunately no finished projects, but that's okay too. So the first is not even one of these ideas, but I did make some progress on my So Faded sweater, but it hasn't been knit on in a week, or yeah, about a week. And it hasn't gotten a lot of progress since the last time I showed it to you guys, but it does have a bit more of the Jawbreaker color added in now. So I finished fading it in, and it is now Jawbreaker section time, and I think I have a couple more inches to go in the Jawbreaker before I will be adding in the last color, which is going to be Dark Dimension. So that'll be finishing off my fade down here. Then we'll get to the part of the fade, or part of the sweater, that is always takes me the longest, and that is the sleeves. Is there anybody else out there who hates knitting the sleeves? Why are the sleeves so horrible? I think for me, sleeves just take so long because you've got this giant body of the sweater, and you have to turn the sleeves, and the body is like sitting there being a lump in your lap, and it's just not as easy to navigate the sleeves. And the fact that you have to do the same thing twice also just makes things a little bit more boring. So sleeves, my mortal enemy, and Project Staller since 2010. For me at least. But a little bit progress on my fade. I've been trying to knit on it at knit night and that sort of thing, so that my crazy knitting design fever doesn't just make my brain explode. Okay, so the next project I have to share was one that you saw in a completely different form last podcast, and it has been one of those projects that got ripped out a few too many times for me to just not be so frustrated with it. But it's finally going the way I want it to go, and hopefully it'll stay in this form and be finished by the next podcast. And these are my new sock design that I showed you last time, but they look completely different. So last time I showed you these, they were being knit up in Knitted Wits, box full of crayons colorway on her beautiful sock yarn, and I was using the 2-ply sock yarn, which is an 80-20 merino nylon blend. And it's not anything to do with Knitted Wit's yarn, because Alicia at Knitted Wit has beautiful yarn, and I was so excited to use it, and I thought it would look fabulous in this design that I had in my head. But the 2-ply has such a high twist, which I thought would complement this pattern, but it just wasn't. So it just was the wrong type of yarn that I selected for this design to come out the way I wanted. And so I had worked a lot of it, and it just wasn't looking the way I wanted. So I ripped it out, and at first I thought maybe the colors were too variegated, so that you weren't seeing the stitches as much. And I tried it in another 2-ply yarn, and it still wasn't working out, so I ripped that one out. And I finally figured out that it wasn't the colors that were the problem, it was the twist of the yarn. And so I dove into my indie dyer stash and got out this 75-25 merino nylon blend from HKNT, and this is her Garden Party colorway. I didn't write down what her sock base is called, but it is a 75-25 merino nylon blend. And my sleepy, groggy heat brain will just be my excuse for not being a prepared podcast host this time around. But this is what this pattern needed. It needed the plumpness of that blend of yarn, which is a 4-ply, and so it's a much bouncier yarn and gives you much plumper stitches, and that's what this needed, so that you can see these slip stitches in much greater definition than I was getting on the 2-ply yarn, which is not what I expected, because the high twist usually gives you really great stitch definition, but in this case it needed to be round, plump stitches so that they stood out from the background and not crisp, tight stitches. So this one is now going really well. I love also the fact that it has just tiny little pops of color in there, so it also doesn't distract from the stitches. And it's finally on its way to happy sockness after bringing me lots of frustration and being ripped out a lot of times. I actually would have been further along, but I ripped this out again just to change the design on the back, the design on the back of the sock a little bit more. But now I think it's finally gonna go and do what I imagined it should be doing this whole time. So that's one tale of yarn madness. And also it was something, that whole experience was something that convinced me to bring back my 75-25 yarn blend to the shop. I had one for a while that was called the Twist base, and I still offer it to shops on wholesale, but I had taken it out of my online shop because I was getting overwhelmed with having 2 sock blends, and I was feeling, just mostly overwhelmed with trying to keep up with dyeing both the 80-20 sock blend that I call sock and Twist, which is a 75-25 merino nylon sock blend. I figured I didn't need both of them, but now I think I do. After going through this whole experience where the plumpness of the 75-25 yarn really made a difference in this design, and the fact that I've been working with more of the 75-25 for other projects and been buying that more from other indie dyers, I want to bring it back. I think it has its place, and I'm getting to a point where I'm dyeing enough. I have enough capacity to dye the yarns that I can keep both of them in stock and not feel overwhelmed with what colorway should be on which sock yarn. So if you are a fan of the 75-25 merino nylon sock blends, I know a lot of indie dyers carry them, and it's a saturated market, but I think that it's something that I want to bring back to the shop again and offer, because I know it is a favorite sock base for a lot of knitters out there. And it also just works up really great in shawls and sweaters when you want to have a nylon blend for your sweater. It's a great choice to go with. So look for that to be heading back into the shop probably next month. I'll be doing a major update with the DK and the new 75-25 merino nylon blend. It's not going to be called Twist anymore because I feel that that's a confusing name because it doesn't actually have a high twist. So instead I'm going to be renaming it Bounce Sock, because it has the lovely plumpness of my 100% merino base called Bounce, but it has that added nylon for strength. So it'll be Bounce Sock, and you can find that in the shop starting next month, hopefully. So that's a long story, but now you can see why I've gone crazy. Okay, so enough of my 75-25 merino sock yarn enlightenment. Let's get on to the next project. This is one that was really inspired by the colors more than anything else. And this one has actually been pretty smooth sailing for my projects, my designs lately. And this is a new shawl that I'm working on. It's going to have a crescent shape. First I wanted to do it in a fade because fades are so popular, and I want to be one of the popular kids with a fade pattern, but it was just trying too hard. It just was not working the way I wanted it to. I couldn't even get it squared in my mind to even cast it on and have it not just feel like it was giving in or selling out to the fade bonanza that's been going on. It just wasn't creative or original in any special way beyond give me your money because here's another fade pattern, and it wasn't vibing with me. So I started over in my brain and decided to do more of a traditional striped shawl but with fun colors, basically. So this is how far I've gotten so far, and I'm using my single base, and it's 3 different colorways. It's Overboard, which is the light greeny blue with stripes of Bermuda shorts, which is the darker blue stripes, and then just pops of Coral Crush in there to give it a pop of color, as well as a change in texture a little bit to make the knitting not so zoned out and add a little bit of fun change in there, but nothing so complicated that you can't sit and Netflix and knit, or Knitflix as I have found that it is now called. So yeah, just a fun 3-color shawl, crescent shawl, playing with texture and color, and then it's going to have a accent border that'll mostly be the Coral Crush color to pop out on the bottom of the shawl. But I've got a long way to go till we get there. So but I'm happy with this one, how this one's coming out so far. I haven't had to rip it out 500 million times and start over. So that's always a good feeling when something kind of works out once you get it on the needles. Just took a little while to actually get it straightened out in my brain. So that one's chugging along pretty decently. And then I told you I've gone crazy with casting on all these things, and I've got another one to share, but it is just a tiny little baby right now. So it's hard to kind of see where this one will be going yet, but it's another shawl design that's going to be triangular and mostly just play with shape and color on this one. So I just started this guy a couple days ago, and I'm using single. I've got the Casada colorway, which is the blue-green, and striping that with Sweet Dreams. And so yeah, it's still very early stages on this one. The design sob story behind this one really had to do with my color selection more than anything. First, it took me a little while to even kind of get started and square out exactly what I wanted. I was trying to do stockinette down here at first and then just garter on this border edge, but it looked okay, but figuring out how the increases and stuff, it was not pretty. It just wasn't really the prettiest of knitting. So I decided to just go back to garter for some easy, breezy knitting. And then I got that started, but I was working in two completely different colorways at first. I was using Popsicle Stand and Jawbreaker, and I thought they were going to be awesome and fabulous and bright and amazing, and they were, but they were kind of awesomely fabulous and that sort of thing, like blow your eye out neon. And I'm not to the Stephen West levels of being able to pull off colorways in my designs quite yet, because sometimes when you choose those really crazy fun colorways, they just don't vibe when you're trying to sell an item or sell a design, and I can't quite pull it off yet. So I bugged Andy about it, and he decided that it was a little too, and so I ripped it out and chose this more subdued colorway, but it's still really pretty, still really colorful, still really me. So I think this is going to do better for making the pattern a bit more accessible to other people who might not want an in-your-face crazy shawl. And maybe I'll just save those skeins of Jawbreaker and Popsicle Stand and knit another one for my own crazy shawl that I won't have to worry about being commercially accessible, or whatever you want to call it. So that was a couple false starts on this one, but it's back, it's going along, it's happy garter stitch. It's my easy go-to knitting, especially in times like the last couple of days when my brain's just too melted and I don't want to think about anything else. Just having a nice striped garter stitch shawl that I don't have to worry about stitch counts and that sort of thing too much is always a good project to have on hand. So that's the story behind this guy. So I have just a couple new additions to my Indie Dyer stash to share with you guys this week. The first one is this lovely skein of sock yarn by Color Redefined, and it is her BFL Smooth Sock Base, which is a 75-25 British blue-faced Leicester superwash wool with 20%, probably 25%, I think there's a typo on here, 25% nylon, and the colorway is called Killer Specs from Outer Space. I had to grab this skein after Lori on Instagram shared her skein that she had bought, and I rushed out and got my own because it is so fun. I love how it looks in the skein, which tells me nothing really about what it's gonna look like knitted up, but it's gonna. I have the indie dyer inside. That I kind of know how this guy's gonna knit up a bit more. So it'll be long stripe repeats of these, not long stripe, kind of medium stripe repeats of these colors. So it'll have the dark stripe, and then it'll gradient to the white, and then you'll have a little stripe of speckles. So this one I think will have to be a vanilla sock, so that the yarn can sing and be as pretty as it wants to be, but the color changes in here will keep the knitting fun for me. So that'll be really fun to knit up. And I'm really excited about this because as I mentioned in one of the early episodes, I'm always on the lookout for different yarn blends than what I carry in the shop, because I can grab those anytime and knit with them. So having a BFL sock base is exciting to me. I haven't knit with a BFL sock yarn before. It's really soft, but you can tell it's kind of got a little bit more of that ruggedness in the fiber, so it'll be nice and strong and warm. So I'm really excited to see how this one knits up, and to see how these socks wear over time with this different fiber blend than I'm used to working with. The second batch of yarn that I got in the mail this past week are 2 skeins from Wobble Gobble Yarns, which is a new, to me, indie dyer on Etsy. Super cute little label. And they're both 2-ply 80/20 merino nylon blend, similar to my sock base, but in 2 really beautiful colors. And she doesn't have her colorways listed on her label, so I'm going to have to go back and look up what these colors are called again to share with you guys. But I really love her speckling technique. It's a lot different than how I do my speckles. And then her colors are just really pretty. How she has these kind of variegated and slight changes in the colors throughout the skein, I think is going to make these a fun knit. So I'm looking forward to these. I don't have any projects in mind for them yet. So these again are Wobble Gobble, and I'll put a link to her shop on the show notes. And that's all that I added to the stash this week. After going a little bit crazy in a couple other episodes, it was time to rein it in a little bit. But I am still always looking for fun new indie dyers to explore, especially ones that feature unique yarn blends. So if you come across anything or find a new indie dyer that you just love, send me a note, because I'd love to check them out and feature them on the podcast. It's too hot to be in here for too long. Rufus is melted on the floor, so I think we're going to head back into our sanctuary of a living room that has a wall AC unit and enjoy a cup of iced coffee and try to get some of this prep work for my trunk show done, and just leave it there. No giveaway this week, but I think the next episode I'm going to have a super awesome giveaway for you guys. It's on its way in the mail as we speak, so make sure you come back for episode 5 and see what goodies I have in store for you then. And until then, hopefully you guys are not going crazy with cast-on fever / heat stroke / just overall knitting hysteria. So happy knitting, may your yarns never tangle, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks. Bye.